how to speak more confidently in any situation. Talking is something that most of us do on a daily basis. As such, most of us will probably say that, for the most part, we feel pretty good doing it. We can talk to our parents, our friends, our partners. But then, when we really need that gift of the gab, it can end up letting us down. This is what happens when we're in a physical or verbal confrontation. It's what happens when many of us go on dates, and it's what happens when we're in interviews. The problem isn't talking. The problem is talking confidently. So in this presentation, we're going to look at how you can always do that, no matter the circumstances. Tip 1. Stand up. The first tip is to fix your body language, and specifically, that means you should stand more erect with your chest somewhat puffed out. Doing this will immediately make you take up more physical space, making you more dominant and helping you to at least seem more confident. At the same time, this will help with the acoustics of your voice and mean that everything you say comes out louder and more clearly. Tip 2. Speak more slowly. The more nervous we are, the faster we tend to talk. This has the effect of making our voice sound higher pitched, weaker, and ultimately less confident. Your job then is to try and overcome this by speaking more slowly. This makes you sound instantly deeper and more confident, and it makes the content of what you're saying seem more considered and trustworthy. Tip 3. Breathe. If you are panicked and if you're shaking, then you will sound nervous. That stands to reason. Try to get your physiological response under control then. The best way to do this is to breathe more slowly and more fully, which will help to get your parasympathetic nervous system back under control so that your heart stops racing. Tip 4. Relax. When you are nervous, the release of hormones and neurotransmitters tends to make you tense up and become more physically anxious. By relaxing, you can counteract this fact and you can loosen the muscles around your throat and vocal cords, making you sound deeper, more powerful, and more confident. And finally, tip 5, make eye contact. Often the best way to become more confident is to act more confident until that becomes a reality. And one of the best ways to act more confident? Make eye contact with whoever it is that you're talking to. Quick ways to boost your confidence. Want to raise your confidence and raise your game? It takes a long time to address the kinds of deep-seated insecurities that lead to chronic low esteem. But that said, there are some things that you can do right now that will have short-term and immediate benefits to raise your confidence. Let's take a look at some of the best. Adopt a power position. Using larger body language exhibits more confidence, but it also actually triggers the release of testosterone and other chemicals that make you feel more assertive, aggressive, and successful. Remember something you did well. Think about the last time you absolutely killed it and try to remember that occasion. Now live in that moment for a while and let it psych you up into the same mental state you experienced the first time round. Work out. Workout makes us more confident in a whole ton of different ways. Not only does working out trigger the release of adrenaline, testosterone, and more hormones that boost confidence, but it also makes us feel good because we've done something productive. Which leads us to the next point. Do something productive. Just doing something quickly that will offer a quick win is a great way to raise confidence too. Make the bed, tidy the kitchen, shoot off a quick email, get something done and feel good about it. Listen to some music. There are a lot of music tracks out there that are built around raising your confidence and self-esteem. Might I suggest some tracks by the artist Stan Bush, which are all about killing it? Spend time with friends. If you have just a little bit of time to build your confidence, then try spending some time with friends or a partner, anyone who makes you feel good about yourself. As a side note, you need more of these kinds of people in your life and fewer of the ones that make you feel worthless. Do something scary. Even better than quickly doing something productive is to quickly do something that you're normally afraid to do. This is an even more powerful quick win. It could mean that you give a talk in public or that you attempt a backflip. Facing fears ultimately diminishes them. Finally, fix up your look. The way we look has a big impact on the way we feel. Fix up your outfit. Get a haircut or have a shave. Feel like $1,000,000. How to have 100% certainty in your entrepreneurial venture. One of the things that is most responsible for holding us back is a lack of certainty. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that we unfortunately lack faith in our own ideas and plans, and that in turn prevents us from ever giving them the best chance possible. This is why you often don't work out, and it's certainly why you don't invest time, money, and effort into that entrepreneurial venture. Think about it. You might think of yourself as lazy, or as flaky, or generally as someone who doesn't see things through to completion. But ask yourself how often you take time off work. You go to work every single day and do the things you need to do there every single day, no matter how tired or uninspired you are. And why is that? It's because you have certainty. You're willing to invest that kind of time and effort because you know that you'll get paid every single day. And if you knew that your workouts would get you into incredible shape, then you will be able to hit the gym every single day. We don't because we think we'll give up before it happens, or because we don't trust in the routine or in our own bodies. If you knew that your entrepreneurial venture was destined for greatness, you would find time every day to make it happen. So, how do you know? 1. Redefine success. Rethink what success means to you. Perhaps you don't need to be super rich. Aim for something lower to begin with and be happy to reach that point. You'll probably find that you can be just as happy this way. 2. Follow a blueprint. Being an entrepreneur doesn't always need to mean breaking the mold. In fact, a lot of the most successful businesses simply recycle well-known strategies and well-known methodologies. Open up a high street store. Open up a hair salon. Take a business that you know works and then, do that. 3. Bootstrap. Bootstrapping means that you're going to fund your big picture with smaller and less exciting business strategies. That may mean, for example, that you sell a product in order to fund a much bigger product. Or it might mean selling a service while using the time left over to work on R&D. Oh, and finally, believe in yourself. Believe you can do anything, and you'll be one step closer to making your vision a reality. 3 things you're doing that damage your confidence. A lot of people have problems with their self-confidence and don't feel quite as pleased about who they are as maybe they should. We've all had those days where we feel a bit worthless, and we've all had interactions with people where we felt like we don't belong or weren't as impressive somehow as the others in the group. And often we feel like victims for this reason. We feel as though we've been dealt a bad hand to have such low self-esteem. But guess what? You might also be somewhat responsible. Not only is it your responsibility to dig yourself out of that pit, but you might also be the one who put yourself there in the first place. In this presentation, we'll cover 3 things that you're doing that damage your self-esteem. Replaying uncomfortable experiences. When someone says something cruel about you, how do you react? Many of us respond by replaying what they've said in our heads over and over again. And we do the same thing when we trip over and embarrass ourselves in public. And we do the same thing when we've had a bad date or a bad interview. You get the point. While it's useful to replay these events to look for things we could do better, it becomes destructive if we do this over and over, and you end up cementing certain neural pathways. So, have a debrief, then move on. Being too polite and humble. It's nice to be polite and humble to some extent, but there becomes a point where it actually just amounts to putting yourself down. If you're constantly humble, then you are positioning yourself below others. And eventually you start to believe that's where you should be. And so do other people. Playing it safe. Essentially, a lack of confidence comes down to fear. Usually, this means a fear of getting it wrong. The only way to get over that fear is to prove to yourself that it's unfounded. How? By facing that fear. And that means getting out of your comfort zone and taking risks. If you're shy of social situations, then put yourself out there and speak to people. If you're unconfident in doing DIY, then grab that drill and start getting to work. This takes courage. And ultimately, courage is the number one tool for vanquishing a lack of confidence. How to be more assertive while still gaining respect. Often, we are stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to our interactions with others. More specifically, we are often forced to choose between being assertive and standing up for ourselves and being nice. In other words, these 2 options often seem mutually exclusive. It seems as though being nice often comes with the prerequisite that you should also be a pushover. This is something of a problem, seeing as most of us want to be treated with respect and not become a human doormat. But likewise, most of us also like to think of ourselves as nice, decent people, and we don't want to cause anyone else undue harm or upset. In this presentation, we'll discuss how you can be assertive while at the same time inspiring respect in others. Keep your cool. Assertive is a good word because it's subtly different from aggressive or angry. When you are assertive, you are simply asserting yourself, which broadly means you're stating what it is that you want or how you feel. This is different from being passive or inactive and letting things just happen to you. But it's also different from being angry, aggressive, or explosive. When we lose our cool and shout and rave, we actually come across as a little unhinged and certainly rattled. These reactions do not help us gain respect because they just make us seem out of control. Know what you want. In order to assert, you first need to know what it is that you wish to assert in the first place. In other words, if you're making some kind of point or you're putting the world to rights, then you better know exactly what it is that you're trying to say. Raging because you're unhappy with a situation makes you seem like a whiner or a crybaby. Instead, tell the person who has wronged you what you want and what you expect them to do about it. Don't make excuses. A lot of people will tell you never to say sorry. That's a big commitment, so I wouldn't necessarily go that far. But what I would say is that many of us say sorry too much, and it can actually make us seem a little weak at times. Instead of apologizing then, be willing to ruffle a few feathers sometimes. Be fair, but be firm when you need to be.